Evening. This is your very own Coach Larry, aka Seville. This is episode 99. 99. We're almost at that three-digit episode. Thank God for that. Today we have the human development coach that helps guys go from the game of baseball to the game of life. This guy was drafted by the San Diego Padres 2009, the 27th round. He is also known as the youth baseball coach. He attended the school of Howard College and the University of New Mexico. I don't know too many guys from New Mexico, but he's going to tell us a little about that as well today. But the things we're going to talk about today is number one, we're going to talk about learn what it takes to be seen from a D1 coach. Also, why is development so important to the next level of baseball? And how to prepare the high schoolers today to prepare for all the different things that go on in NCAA with the transfer portal and NIA and much, much more. I'm going to bring on a very own Coach Cameron Monger, the 27th round, 2009 San Diego Padres, 10-year pro. How you doing, Cameron?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for all the shout outs there. Appreciate it.
I had to do a little bit of my research, make sure I give the acknowledgement. This is not even on my question, but I want to ask you about New Mexico. I'm just a little curious because I mean I've had 99 episodes and I don't know anybody from Mexico or My wife's from Mexico. My wife's Latina. She's from Mexico, but New Mexico's different. What was that experience like for you going to New Mexico?
Yeah, Albuquerque's a great town. Some of the best food in the world, I would
Yeah.
say. Blended in there. So, I was only there for 1 year, my junior year with the Lobos. So, was a big growth year for me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed driving through. Always got to stop at Frontier, get a fresh squeezed orange juice and a cinnamon roll on the way to anytime I'm going to Phoenix or something like that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Also, you went to University of Howard College. Where is that located? What was that? As a JUCO? What was that like?
Yeah, junior college, Howard County, Big Spring, Texas. So they've
Okay.
got an oil refinery there, and that's about it. It's an old army base town. So it was a town of 50,000, and then the base shut down. So then you
Wow.
imagine like an old West Texas town
Right.
that has like 5,000 people in it, but it's built for 50,000. So it was unique for sure
Mm.
out there. Not a whole lot going on.
I like what you said because, for the most part, most junior colleges are like that anyway. Because I went to a couple junior colleges myself, and I remember one I went to. I didn't stay there. I'm like you. I went to Paris Junior College. I don't know if you heard of Paris Junior College. And I went there for a semester, and I got out of there quick. It was Cam. It wasn't. I'm from Chicago originally, which now I live in South Florida. And I went there. You got to think about 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid going there. I was like, I ain't never seen that much heat, and it was like I seen a what do you call those things? It was like a little heat storm or whatever they call it. I seen it moving, and I'm fascinated. I don't know, but anyway, I had an experience as well. Howard reminds me of Paris Junior College quite a bit, and from that point, where are you from, and where'd you go to high school? How was your high school career?
Yeah, I grew up in DFW where I'm at now. Went to
Okay,
Weatherford High School. So high school career was a little bit, I guess, not orthodox. I'm not
okay,
sure, but
okay,
Weatherford's got a good program. So played freshman ball, sophomore year played JV.
okay.
Junior year, I was a catcher in high school. So
A
there
catcher.
was two senior catchers ahead of me. So my junior year, I was basically just the pinch runner, right? So that's
Okay.
pretty much all I did was pinch run and help out um,
Wow.
when needed. And then my senior year, just kind of ran into some bad luck.
Okay.
Hit
Okay.
a double early in the season,
Okay.
and the second base wasn't in all the way, so it wasn't
Mm.
dug out the plug. And so when I
Mm-hmm.
stepped on the bag shifted and complex high ankle sprain. That was my senior year. So,
Okay. Okay. This
was fortunate for some of the coaches in my life, made some phone calls and got me in the door at Howard
that's
and
good, man.
basically kept my career alive. So,
That's good. That's like a blessing. Apparently,
yeah.
you left a good mark with somebody. Because we know high school coaches don't really do that much for baseball. Just from my experience, most of them don't. I coach high school baseball here as well, but I'll do what I can. But it's good to know that because your story is a little bit different than most guys. That's why I asked that question because I love your Twitter. I love it. It says the human development through the game of baseball. And I was sitting here, I was thinking, man, like I'm getting these questions. I got these questions like human. I've heard of a lot of things, Cam, but the human development. I like saying the human development coach through the game of baseball. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Let's get the audience a little give them a little squeeze of what that means.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's just kind of how I view what I'm supposed to do, what my purpose is, with running our youth program here is at the end of the day, I want to approach everything I'm doing assuming this kid's going to stop playing baseball tomorrow. So, we love the game of baseball. It gives you a lot of challenges. We know all the sayings. It's a game of failure and all of that. Those failures and those moments and those opportunities allow kids to work through stuff, to get advice from
Amen.
coaches and teammates and parents on, hey, this similar bad call, whatever it is going to
Right.
happen in your life for
That's right.
forever. So
That's right.
if we can look at, human skill sets and how to overcome adversity and how to be good teammates and how to work hard, that's what's going to transcend their baseball career always. So that's kind of the goal with how I like to coach.
Man, boy, I like you, brother. You got some that's some heavy stuff right there. You get me excited over here, Cameron Monger, the 27th round draft pick. Man, that was pretty powerful what you just said. With it, we just kicked it off, and you pretty much hit it. And I
Let's
said
get
that
it.
you get right into it. I like that because a lot of times on my show we talk about baseball, we talk about a little bit of everything, but I try to put a little faith in it. I do everything with faith, but I just wanted to say that because I look at everybody's Twitter or their little social medias, and I looked at your Instagram, and it was different. It didn't really say a lot. I'm like, okay. Then I looked at Twitter. I was like, yeah, this is it here. This is the guy. And the way you left your image on your Instagram, you got a side view. It was a side view of you, and I was like, that's clever. I got to get because I've been trying to get you for a while. I've been trying to hit this guy up. Let me hit him up. I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep
We've been
trying.
busy. We've been
It's
busy.
a good thing. It's a good thing,
Yeah.
man. I just had to say that because I mean, when you see people like that, you want to make sure you give them acknowledgement. Apparently, you must be doing some good stuff because at the end of the day, you did 10 years of baseball, pro baseball, and I'm gonna say for the listeners, this is episode 99. It doesn't matter what level you play. Pro baseball is pro baseball. It's just the level gets harder the higher it goes. But I want to congratulate you for doing 10 years of pro baseball. And this leads me to the next question. So we talking about the first question I want to talk about is, what does it take for these kids nowadays, which we talked about before we came on the air. What will it take if you can give us 3 tips? What do you think and believe it takes for high schoolers to be seen at the D1 level?
Yeah, good questions. So as far as being seen, like being recognized, being noticed, at the end of the day, you have to have tools. We look at, a five-tool player, getting being around the Padres for a little bit. I One of my core memories with them was sitting at the lunch table with Dave Winfield, and he got to talk about how, hey, just so you know, this organization has labeled you as some kind of guy. You're
Wow.
the power hitting corner outfielder. You're the
Wow.
on base speed guy. You're the hard throwing righty. You're the crafty lefty. Whatever it is, and if you don't work on the things outside of that, you're going to be in and out real quick, So he said that, he didn't get drafted as a five-tool player, but he worked towards that. And so that's
Mm,
always something we try to keep front of mind. Make sure kids even understand what their five tools are
correct.
and make sure they can be realistic in identifying what's my best tool that I can showcase and what are the tools that I need to work on and get better at. So,
Mm,
you can't get away from the metrics
yeah.
at this level, at this day and age, I guess. In
Yeah.
high school, you need to know when you're a junior or senior, you need to know how hard you're throwing the ball, how hard you're hitting the ball, and how fast you run. And then, work on your skills outside of that.
I like that, Cam. That was pretty good. But you said a whole lot, and I've got some notes. You started off, I caught this. You said this. You said you were a catcher in high school.
Correct.
And then you said, something happened, which I had the same similar story, very similar. And then you said you was a pinch runner. You ran. And I said, wait a minute. For the people that know baseball, you think a catcher? Okay, let's think about a catcher. Let's put the metrics out there. A catcher probably
Yeah.
runs 7 in a 60, 7.4, 7.5, 7.6, maybe 7.7. Okay, a catcher, a true catcher. And then you said the Padres said your tools, you're a corner guy in the outfield. I'm thinking, okay, now you just threw me another human development curveball. I was like, okay, now break this down because for the people that because a lot of guys don't, catchers don't usually be outfielders. Let's be real.
Mhm.
No,
Right.
but there's something else that you're not sharing because you got some skills that we're not talking about. But what is this that? How can you convert from a catcher to the outfield? I'm for the listeners so they can be educated. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how it all happened, going through high school was a catcher. Zach Britton was our number one, so we were pretty good.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay.
So part of, I guess, the self-reflection piece that I want to instill in other high school players is I realize, Zach's throwing 94, 95 with some sink, some pretty nasty stuff.
Right.
And it was a dogfight every single time I had to catch him. Like I didn't
Ooh.
make it look as good as these big league catchers, framing and
Mm-mm.
spotting up. I was just like struggling to just keep the ball in front of me. So it's
Right.
like, well, if I can't catch this guy with ease, like I'm
Right.
probably this maybe is either a skill I need to work a little harder at, or
Okay.
I've got a lot of people that I trust in my corner saying, look, Cam, there's one catcher on the field, there's three outfielders. You run a 6.460, you should probably stop catching, and there's more money out there. So,
I like
you
it.
know,
Like it. I like it. Like it, Cam. That's good.
that I'm definitely stubborn sometimes when it comes
Okay.
to things like that. But
Okay.
you hear one thing enough times over and over and over, and it's like, all right, let me go try this out. And so, pretty much that game that I snapped my ankle was the last game I caught, I think.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
So
It's okay. It's all right. It's
the
okay.
dog's getting fired up here.
It's all right.
So, but yeah, then I got the scholarship to Howard with a boot still on my foot based on word of mouth from my
Oh.
head coach, and he played pro ball with one of the Howard coaches, um,
Wow.
and basically just rolled into junior college baseball and had to work and learn and screw
Man,
up and pay attention, hopefully, and learn as fast as I could. So that
I
was
like
that
it.
was became a center fielder pretty quick.
Wow, man, Cam, that's unheard of. I know a few guys like that. Uh, you know, like myself, because I played first base and I ran a 6.460. I was playing first base, and they like, I went to practice first day of JUCO. They're like, "What are you doing?" Like, what are you talking about? I've never played outfield. You're a little
Yeah.
boy, little league, you play a certain position. I'm left-handed too. I throw left-handed, and it's similar to your story. That's why I said your story kind of it reflects to me a lot. But the one thing that we didn't talk about was you was adaptable and you're coachable, because a lot of kids aren't. Well, I had this earlier. I was talking to another guy on another show. Some kids, which you know this, when their parents tell them they play a certain position
Right.
and this is the position. And I'm like, okay, but you can hit. Go back to those five tools you talked about, and you got three good tools. And I've got a shortstop or I've got a catcher like yourself that is going to play that position because he's better. He's not saying that you can't play it. So, what does it take for you, or what can you tell the audience? How can they be more coachable and adaptable to make those changes when needed? Because a lot of kids don't want to do that.
Yeah, for me, it's less about like being able to listen to a coach and either be respectful or, do what they tell you to do. I challenge some of our older players too, especially that,
Okay.
I'm not here to just tell you how to do things and you got to do it this way. However, we got to have a conversation and you got to give me reasons why you think I'm wrong or why you think your way is better or why you should be the shortstop, right?
Mm,
And so, for me, it being coachable, part of that is owning your craft and having some understanding of what you do and don't know about the game. And if you don't have a better answer for me, then you probably should just say yes, sir, and move on and let me
That's
try
it.
this and
I
see if,
like it.
Coach Cam knows what he's talking about or not. Um, but sometimes, especially with older college hitters, it's a conversation, right?
Right.
This has worked for me. This is what I'm seeing. This is what the results are. What are you feeling? What's going
Right.
on with that, right? So that's, to me, being coachable is about an open dialogue where we're on the same team here. We both want you to be a little
Successful.
bit better than you were when you woke up this morning, and that's the end goal for me, and it should be the end goal for you. And that's what being coachable is about. Is I don't care where the information is coming from or how I look doing it or what I'm doing with the adjustments, as long as I'm progressing forward, that's a coachable player for me.
I like that, man. I like that. This is enough. This is one I just kind of thought about on the way because I was a similar situation. What if you had a guy that runs a 6'4"? You, I'm asking this question for you. You have a guy that can run a 6'4", 6'4" flat, and he's hitting right-handed, but for some reason you just see that he can probably hit left-handed. Would you take that chance to teach him? Because if he hits left-handed, and we're not talking about a metrics, we're talking about human talent. Because I've
Hmm.
seen this happen, not all the time, but I've seen it happen. You might have had too. I've seen a guy that can swing the bat on the right side, but he's so quick. It takes a little bit longer to get out of the right side than versus the left side.
Right.
And I was like, have you ever thought about considering hitting left-handed too? What do you think about something like that? As far as hitters, do you think that's possible? Have you ever seen a case like that?
As far as at the high school, college level, being an effective switch hitter at that point, I think is super tough. Um, I think if you're looking at, you're just going to be an on base guy, then it's worth a shot, right?
Right,
I definitely played around with it a little bit because yeah, if I can get down the line and four-ish flat, it's three nines, stuff like that, and I go lefty and I can get three
right.
sevens, three eights, that's pretty good. But it's hard to hit. Hitting
Yeah,
is super hard, right? So
yeah,
it's
it
not
is. It
it's
is.
not something that you can just pick
Jump
up
on.
18
Right.
years into your life and
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 start hitting.
expect to have a lot of positive results.
Success. Yeah.
But yeah, some guys are super special, and I don't think it's unheard of completely, but
Right.
it's definitely not
It's
as easy as just saying, well, I'll just hit lefty now, right? It's not that easy. So
You're right. You're right. I just had to throw that out there because I remember there's a guy which you probably know, I don't remember his name. About 3 4 years ago, he was in high school. Maybe 5 years ago, I was coaching at this school and predominantly very good school here in South Florida, and we were playing against IMG, and we played against IMG, and one of the guys, I think he was a center field. He got drafted by the Nationals, which you probably know who he is. I think he was first round draft pick. But before the next game we played against a guy, he throws with both hands. He
right,
throws with both hands. He's a pitcher, and I seen him when he was in high school because I'm coaching against him. And there was like this guy's from another country, came in, came to Florida, and he was raw then, and
right.
he kind of would throw to left, and then he throws right, and I'm like, I've never seen anything like that, so I was kind of amazed would be more the word. I was kind of it's like wow. And now I think he's playing. I don't care remember who he's playing with. I know he went to Mississippi State. I know he went to Mississippi State. He throws harder on his right side. But he's more crafty and he throws more sliders that come in and away, all kinds of things on his left side. But I just kind of thought I'd throw that in there. I was just thinking about how guys make that shift, and he probably started when he was younger. Which would you say he probably started when he was a little boy? But imagine throwing with two different
Yeah,
arms.
no, it's wild. We have a couple of switch hitters in our program. From the development standpoint, I like it in general, just because again, if who knows how long these kids are going to play,
Play.
you're gonna be better one side than the other. In terms of being an effective switch hitter, long time friend of mine, teammate Michael Pear was a switch hitter, and I thought he approached it in a very practical way. And it's like, if as a lefty hitter, if left on left, I just cannot see that slider and I
Right.
hit 150 left on left.
Right.
If I can be a 200 hitter righty
Righty.
off of lefties, that's a step forward,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so, you're not going to see in youth baseball a ton of lefty pitchers.
Yeah.
Um, so the guys that are switch hitting, they may not be as good on the other side, but it's a unique challenge for them and gives them more things to work on and think about and feel with their body. So I think it helps both sides, just
Right.
kids that can work on it for sure.
I like that. I like that. Which leads me to that next question as far as development. You talked about development as well. You talk about that in your little brief bio. When I say development, can you break down your definition of development? Because what I have noticed, this is what I've noticed. There's a lot of kids with talent, but I'm talking about the high school level. But the problem is they don't have the developmental skills, the foundation that we had as kids. Footwork, hand and eye coordination, that twitch first move twitch. They don't know how to backdrop and go out, then come towards the ball. They don't know how to round the ball. Those are the things that I've seen as a coach, and they don't
Mhm.
know they don't know what I mean by approach. Sometimes they're like, "Well, what's your approach? We got a runner on first and third and one out. What's you tell me what you're going to do or what you're not going to do?" And a lot of times they don't know that. So can you break down the importance of developmental?
Yeah, I think the importance of the development side of things for amateur sports is because the physical gap is closing every month that you go by throughout your career, right? At the eights, nines, tens, elevens, twelves, it's who's bigger, whose kids have grown a little bit quicker than the other ones, and those guys can get away with it because guess what? We haven't had very many at bats. So if your kid throws 5 miles an hour harder than I've ever seen in my life, I don't care how many times your third base coach yells, "You're late, get your foot down," whatever. They're just not going to hit 70 miles an hour. It's just not
Right,
going to happen.
right,
But every month that goes by, that physicality gap is shutting. So even if you're not a 6'2" guy, you're going to be 5'7", 5'8", 5'9". You're going to get your strength. You're going to get, you're going to mature. Your body's going to mature, and you're going to get more physical. So if you don't develop the fundamental stuff of how to approach ground balls, how to prepare your body, how to sleep right, all those little things that go into being a great player, that those guys that you may be ahead of or you may be behind, they're just going to keep on going away from you. So
mm,
those little things are very, very important because eventually everyone's going to even out in terms of their talent and their physicality.
right, right. Which leads me to that. Well, you just said a key word. You said good, and then you said great, which that leads me to that next thing is, can you define the word of a great player and a good player? Because everyone thinks they're great. I'm gonna repeat. They think they're great. So my
Yeah.
question to you, as a trainer, what does it take to be a great player versus a good player?
Yeah, well, it's perfect timing because we actually just got our practice shirts set up, and this year on the back of our shirts is being great is optional, right?
Oh, look at
And
that question.
so,
Oh, that's good.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
God. That's
led me right
good.
into it. Layup shot, I appreciate that, but
Yeah.
that's the reality of it, right? You look at our youth teams, or our high school teams or whatever, we're going to structure our practice and our systems in a way that we're going to be competitive. We also have extra hitting, and we also have some guys that do lessons or extra work, or the high schools offer free programming, stuff like that. And guess what? Not everyone goes to the free extra things.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But as the season goes on, it's no surprise that the guys hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the guys that I see the most. Doesn't mean they're doing lessons or working with me or whatever. They got, all of our players have keypad access to the facility. So sometimes I just see kids coming in, hitting their own, doing their stuff, following their programming, and they're out the door. And sometimes those guys aren't 1, 2, 3, 4 to
Yeah.
to start the season. Um, but as time goes on, you put in. We'd rather you do a little bit a lot than a lot of little. I'd rather guys come in 30 minutes extra a day, wall ball, tee work, whatever it is, work on your craft. Then we got a game tomorrow. I'm going to go up to the facility and do everything and get ready and be ready, right?
It's too
So
late.
so yeah, so being great's optional. It's not required.
I
So, but
like
you
that.
gotta you gotta put in the work and the time.
I like that, which lead me to a quick break. I'm glad you said that because I'm writing a book for the listeners. This is episode 99. We got Coach Cameron Monger. He is like I said, 2009 27th round San Diego Padre draft pick, which we talked about good to great. And my question, the thing I'm going to talk about is here's a commercial break from YouGoin'Pro. If you ever decided to think that you're a pro, I'm sorry, if you ever decided that you are going to go to the next level of baseball? That's a question. The next thing is this: what does it take to get to the next level? Well, I got something for you. September 30th. Guess what? Coach Lowry is getting out a new book coming out. Are you really D1, Coach? Are you really D1? Coming out September 30th. It's going to be a blueprint of what coaches are looking for at the D1 level. You want to get it and stay tuned. Go to my Instagram is YouGoin'Pro Sports, and also go to my TikTok is YouGoin'Pro. But I just had to throw that out there because that's one of the subjects I talk about in the book: good versus great. And I didn't even know you said that, man. That was just great that you said that because, being around parents in general, they think, I mean, it's nothing wrong thinking my kid's great. I'm not against that. But sooner or later, we're going to have to deal with the truth because the higher the level go, the talent gets slimmer and slimmer for us based on all the ones that are high school. As it goes up higher, it gets tougher. It gets, and only the strong survive. But now we're going to talk about the mental game. Let's talk about the mental part, you know, because I believe you can answer this question because you played for 10 years, 10, 1-0, and you probably went through a lot of mental changes that we don't know about. Can you tell the listeners one episode that the listeners can get and learn from your situation, what made you a better coach today?
Yeah, I mean, I always think about just showing up for 10 years definitely helps, right? Like, how many times does the game present you with a challenge that you didn't prepare for? You didn't get to study for that kind of test. So just being able to show up, go through the game, and sit in your locker afterwards, and try to self-evaluate and what can you do better next time. That's doing that for 10 years definitely helps. Noticing that the the physical side of my game wasn't the issue. You
Okay.
know, being able to run a 6'4" is great. Being able to hit balls 400 feet is great. All those things are great. Um, but the from the mental side, the performance equation that we talk about with our players is that your performance is your ability minus the interferences in your mind, right? So
Ooh.
P equals A minus I. So you
P.
think about a clutch player, right? Clutch players don't hit 600, 800 in the World Series. They just
Okay.
keep hitting 350, 400, but they're
Consistently. Yep.
able to do that in bottom of the ninth, bases loaded. They get that hit, right? So
Mm.
that's what really good players do. 5 years into my career, I actually followed one of my other coach influences, Chad Rhodes, who uh, studied to be a certified mental coach, and it helped me be a better player, but then prepared me to, now coach these players and work with them on their mental game and being able to ask better questions and stuff like that. So that to me is huge. But in terms of something that I probably struggled with for most of my career and things that took me too long to figure out,
Okay.
which is ultimately why you probably don't make it, but was just not caring about the result,
Ooh.
making getting hyper focused on the process,
Mm.
what you're working on, things like that, and a subtle difference from being careless and caring less. So I want to care
Ooh.
less about the result, but I want to focus on what I'm doing. Um, I'll
Wow.
actually, one of my core memories from a player was our hitting a double up in St. Paul.
Okay.
Beautiful stadium out there, brand new. They're the Twins AAA park now, but radio guy comes up to me afterwards and asked how that one felt. Like I was like, well, I mean, it's a double, So,
Right.
but this was year 10, I
Okay.
think,
Okay.
9 or 10,
Okay.
and so I was like, oh well, maybe it was like my 100th double or something cool or whatever.
Right. Right.
But then he's like, no, 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 that got you off your bad streak, and I was like, oh, okay. So
Oh.
I don't know what the streak was, right? It was 0 for like 30-ish. It was bad, um, stats wise. So then I go back and I look at all the film from my past at bats from my
Right.
last hit. That was a long time ago to that double, and I had lined out over 50% of those at bats,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So you talk about I was at that point in my career where I would like to have been early in my career, where I really didn't care about if it was a double or an out. I'm just going up there trying to hit the ball hard. And if you
Mm,
can hit the ball hard over half your at bats, that's elite. And so
oh
even though
yeah.
the stats don't show it,
Show it. That's
I
right.
was doing the right thing as a hitter. And that's what you need to focus on to be really good, because if you know you're 0 for 30, you're probably not going up to the plate with a lot of confidence, right?
That's
So,
right.
but I didn't feel like I was 0 for 30. I felt like I was 0 for 0 every time I walked up there. Or maybe I was 3 for 3 because I had three barrels that day and
I
they just
got you.
all found some leather. So,
I like that. I like that. That's man, that's good, Cam. That's good. I like that. Episode 99. Cam, this is a good question based on what you just talked about. Let's talk about slumps. And I said that because, you know, you talked about the mental side of being a slump. I can recall of playing coming from a JUCO, being very good, had some scouts looking at me, and then I went that first year, that first year that transfer, and I was the starting center fielder, and I go 1 for 13, 1 for 12, and I'm slumping. Man, I ain't never slumped like that, and it was cold. So we're playing in cold weather as well, and I'm
right.
not used to that. And, can you educate the audience about how to get over a slump?
Yeah. Anytime we talk to our guys about being in a slump, first of all, we want to kind of define that, right?
Okay,
What does a
define it.
slump mean for the player? For
Okay.
our youth guys, it's 0 for 3. It's one game,
Oh, that's
right?
it. That's it.
So, yeah, so get
Oh.
zooming out and giving them some perspective on that, I think is important. And what do they think is actually a slump?
Okay.
But in terms of getting out of it and refocusing on something that's going to help them feel better, whether they're in it or not, is I always want our players to focus on stuff that they have 100% control of. So when instead of saying I'm 0 for 3, I'm 1 for 10, I'm 2 for 20, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going well, I can control whether I swing the bat and
Mm-hmm.
I can control whether or not I see the ball well. And
Okay.
so anytime I go up to have a plate appearance, anytime I saw the ball well and I swung on a good pitch, I'm going to say that's +1 for Cam, right?
Okay.
+1 for me. Um, if I swing at a bad pitch, that's stuff that I still control, and I don't like that, right?
Okay.
And so then now you 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 got a 2-2 count so far. You've swung at the right pitches, and you've taken pitches that aren't good pitches to swing at. I'm 4 for 4 across this at bat,
Okay.
and then maybe I chase one in the dirt, strikeout. So
Mm.
I'm looking at that at bat as a hitter as I just went 4 for 5. Yeah, if I get that one other take or that one other good swing or whatever,
Wow.
I'm on base. And so what's something that I can control 100% throughout my at bat, or for guys on the mound, maybe it's my rhythm, maybe it's taking a deep breath every pitch, just
Mm-hmm.
something really small that they can execute on, and then you stack all those little wins up together, and now all of a
Mm.
sudden you go from being in a slump to being on a streak,
Wow.
real quick.
Man, that's some serious good. You just dropped the mic on that one. That was good right there. Listen, I've had a couple guys that play in the MLB, and I've had some guys that coaching, minor league baseball and developmental, and a couple teams, and I ain't never heard him say that. That
Yeah.
right there was like boop. Listen, I never thought about that. What you just
Dogs
said.
liked it too. Yeah,
It's all right, but that's pretty good because we know baseball's majority mental, and a lot of times, which I've experienced for the guys that are. I mean, hopefully, this question can resonate with some guys and girls that may be playing softball may listen as well. Um,
for sure.
a lot of times, there's kids that have been playing baseball at an early age, Cam, which this, but when they get to that junior year of high school and that senior year, some reason they did all this training, all this for their parents. They did so much stuff. This happens. I've seen it happen. And the guy that you think is going to go play college baseball, it doesn't have to be D1. Somehow he just quits after that senior year, and I'm like, what happened? And I know part of the answer. Maybe you can give us a little insight on what can we do to beat that, because they really want to play. Because I talked to some guys now that you know
They
I
regret
coach.
it, right? Yeah,
Correct, correct, correct. And I
yeah.
try to talk to them before, And they was like, man, coach, they'll send me a text, coach, I really miss it. I'm like, well, why did you quit? And so maybe you can give us like, something or a nugget or something to encourage these kids because somehow they think it's because it was so easy in high school. All of a sudden, when they get to that last couple of years, they don't have an offer because also they didn't place themselves. They didn't really try. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
They
right.
expect it to happen. So maybe you can give some encouragement, maybe a few tips for some of these kids that are thinking, well, I don't. They got the tools. They may have 3 out of 5 tools, but it's this right here. They don't think it because they haven't had the offers. Can you help them with that?
Yeah, I think number one you got to look at is, do you love the game? Do
Okay.
you love playing? You know, and next is, do you love training?
Train. Okay.
Because
Okay.
guess what? If you call me and say, "Hey Cam, I'm in DFW. I paid 30 grand to have Globe Life Field for a day. You want to come play?" Yeah, I'm on the way. Like
Right.
I'm not going to be good, but I'll play, right? And I have zero interest at this point in my life, going to
Right.
the gym for a couple hours a day and, trying to hit 95 and
Right.
working towards that.
Right.
I've got new interest, right? But if you love playing and you do like training at least enough to continue to play, then the next thing you have to do, I think a major challenge for players and families right now is so much FOMO from social media, from PG, from recruiting accounts and stuff like that. And I think it's really easy for parents and players to not look inwards in themselves and just focus on themselves and focus on, are their metrics getting better? Is their understanding of the game getting better? Are they doing the right things to put them in a good position to play?
Mm,
Because it's really easy for, a senior who is on the front end of their growth curve, look
right.
at a
Right.
guy that's 19 maybe on the back end of his growth curve, and man, this kid, he's barely getting a college offer and he's way better than me, so why am I even
Right.
going to try?
Right. 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 Right.
And you just got to kind of put those blinders on and really focus on yourself a little bit more and focus on getting better and not worrying about what anyone else thinks. um, Another good analogy a mentor of mine kind of talked about in relations to baseball is like, if you're a musician and you love playing music, there's only a couple of uh, Justin Timberlakes and uh, Willie Nelsons and rock
Right.
stars out
That's
there,
right.
right? There's
Right.
there's
Right. Right.
only a very small percentage that do that. But if you love playing music for people and making people happy and touring and
That's
traveling,
right.
and you're a cruise line rock band, right? You're doing the stuff you love. Like, who cares what anyone else thinks as
That's right.
long as you're doing the stuff you love. So if you love baseball, I can just about guarantee there's a program out there that you can benefit. Because, there's some guys that just play to play, but if you
Right.
actually love
Right.
it, you owe it to yourself
So
to play as long as you possibly can.
yeah, I like that. That's good. That's very good. You've helped out quite a few listeners on that one because I can at least give you at least 4 guys I can think of right now in the 10 years I've been coaching. 10 years I've been coaching high school baseball. I can give you a handful of guys right now that should have been playing college baseball. I didn't say D1, but what happened was they say they loved it, and it didn't happen the way they expected it because they're in South Florida. For some reason, they think they're supposed to come to them. I mean, I don't know what it is. This is baseball. Baseball is a little different from football and basketball. If you're from Texas, you're from California, the main sports are football and baseball. Those are the revenue generators. Unfortunately, that's what it is, but we can still love the game. You can still love the game, but you know, I know you know about that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. That's a plug, but we're going to talk about one other thing let's talk about your academy, what you're doing over there at the youth development. I want to talk about that for a few minutes because I want to make sure that they're getting the right information. I know you're the right guy. It's just a matter of what type of kid would you start from scratch, and is there an age limit to start playing baseball if they want to come work out with you?
Yeah, good question. I think when it comes to, when kids get started, I've had this conversation multiple times with parents that call and ask, especially they're trying to navigate. We've played little league, we've played rec ball, we've played community baseball. My kid wants more. We're just not sure when we're ready. And it is a commitment, right? Like I said, being great's optional. It's going to take more work, and just our baseline level of work is going to be more than your community baseball setup. Instead of practicing once a week, we're going to practice two, maybe three times a week. We're going to play probably double the games that you play in a community baseball season. Um, but I, you know, I like to believe we can turn anyone into a pretty good baseball player, because I'm confident in that. But part of that confidence comes with the communication to the parents too and the players of this is where you're at right now.
Okay.
This is where the average level of your high school is going to be at, and right now, based on your age and you wanting to make this team freshman year, you're currently on track. Great, do come to the workouts, and if you want to be great, you're going to do a little bit more. Or you know you're 2 years out from tryouts. I would not guarantee that you would make the team currently because of this missing skill set. So we need to focus on that. We need to double up the reps on those things, and work towards those pieces to make sure you make the high school team. That's a big focus for us because as once you're on the high school team, you're practicing 5 days a week, whether you like it or not, right? So
That's right. That's right.
and the beauty of that is, private sector versus public sector,
That's right.
like you're not paying for those practices, which
That's
is
right.
nice. The kids earn um, that right, and it'd be tough to not improve your skills if you once you make your high school team. So that's the stuff that we're trying to focus on, and making sure kids are good athletes, number one. You can say it as a high school coach, and we have good relationships with the coaches here, that you're also a good skill coach and you can fix guys' swings and fix guys' pitching mechanics and stuff like that. So if guys come in, they're super athletic and they fly around the field and they love the game, but there's some things that need to tweak,
Right.
you're going to take that guy
Mm-hmm.
over someone that doesn't move as well, isn't as fast, but maybe has a nice swing,
Right.
any day of the week. So we always try to focus on the things that's their next step. So our youth program, we're doing everything geared towards making them a high school player. Our high school program is geared towards turning them into college baseball
Okay.
players.
Okay.
So that's
Good.
kind of what we focus on as far as what age. Whenever people want to get to work, we're ready for it.
I like that. I like that's kind of an old school. I love it because that's something that if you want to eat, go to the table. If you don't want to eat, get away from the table because it's gonna be food at the table. And some of this may be steak. You might have caviar. You may have different things you're not used to, but you got to be ready for the task. I mean, because I'm looking at your youth baseball, and I think it's pretty good. Let me ask you this question. I'm a certified personal trainer, and also a meal specialist as well, certified to do that. My question to you is this: when is there a good age, in your experience, that you think they should be working out, far as lifting, exercise, and coming to you as a trainer at youth, if you're youth development?
Yeah, good question. I think my understanding, I don't have any strength certifications. Um, but I ask a lot of questions, and I've got a lot of knowledgeable people in my circle, that I talk with. So I don't really like putting like an age, like
Right.
at 12 you can start to pick up the weights, because in my opinion and in my understanding with everyone else is it's based on your training age. So if you've never sprinted properly, you've never been given mechanics lessons, and you've never learned how to push, pull, hinge, press, all those things, we probably don't need to add weight to that.
Right.
And so, kids need to do, speed and agility stuff, jump, run, all those things to a point where they can control their body well enough that then
Mm.
now we can start to add weight to it. So that's always kind of a check mark for us when
Okay.
we look at programming is, are they doing the movement pretty close to perfect? If so, then we can start to add some weight to it.
Mm.
So
Okay.
it all just depends upon how skilled that player is in their movement patterns and their preparation, and their what's the fancy word, proprioception of their body, right? So
I like that. I was actually trying to get to going on your Instagram, and there's something that popped up. I'm gonna read this, and I want you to elaborate because we already talked about this. Interesting. We talked about development, and this is what it says. I mean, I got something that's popped up. It talked about development. I'm gonna read this for the listeners because they can't see this, but it says development. Too many kids play every weekend and skip the work development, getting lost. And we talked about that earlier because going back to what you said, good versus great. It's good versus great. And it's interesting that I'm getting ready to go to I was going to your Instagram and that popped up and I was like, wow, that's God. That's not a coincidence. That's God because I think development is important, not just in baseball, but in life. Because a lot of kids that are listening, I want them to understand that life is just a little spectrum of baseball. It's just a spectrum of what's going to happen soon. How do you handle that strikeout when someone strikes you out? How do you happen? What happens when the bases are loaded? It's the bottom of the seventh, and you strike out, game winning hit. What change that? How do you deal with it? How do you respond to that? And it's interesting that I think development starts also at an earlier age. And it's not that you can't receive it, but you got to, like you talked earlier, you got to be coachable, you got to be receptible, you got to be willing to do what the coach is telling you to do. Because kids, well, I don't need to do that. I don't, Coach
Yeah.
Cam, I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. And I said, why you don't need to do that? Well, my mom told me that. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So, but anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm trying to get to your Instagram. But I was thinking about developmental. I was thinking about the mental game. I was thinking about that transition from you going from high school, had an injury, to the JUCO, and also I believe it by association. You had somebody working for you. Thank God for favor. God worked through that situation, and then you went to New Mexico for a year and got drafted, and that was such a blessing. And I said that because there's kids out here that are athletes. You talked about athletes. Um, do you think that from the MLB draft this year, if you remember the draft, the first round, the very first round, I looked at it. It's like 12 shortstops, 12 shortstops, first round, and you move your position. My question to you is this: with that position being, an athlete, that's the guy on the team that can do it all. Do you think they're going to be those 12 shortstops will be moved to different positions, and why?
Yeah, more than likely. We I had this conversation with my business partner Brian White. He's a coach for the Tri City Valley Cats right now in the Frontier League.
Okay, okay,
Um,
okay.
and we were texting back and forth during the draft because I think it was the 18th or 19th player that got selected. That was the first non shortstop slash pitcher. So
Yeah.
the first, I think, 17-ish guys that went were pitchers, shortstops.
Yes.
And then all total, there were five non shortstop pitchers taken. I think it was uh, three outfielders, catcher, and then like a corner guy, like a big
Yes.
first base popper. Um, and because we like to talk about a lot of things with our program, but we like to train up the middle. So we want to train catchers, shortstops, center fielders. So even if um, even if you are a second baseman, we want you taking ground balls at shortstop because you need to play up the middle, and that way when you get the shortstop footwork and the shortstop swagger and the shortstop glove and the picks and all that stuff, and all of a sudden your body tells you you're an outfielder, not a catcher. You're a first baseman, not a shortstop. But if you're a big first baseman that can rake and you've got some pretty nice hands and some flexibility, all of a sudden that glove tool, one of your five tools, is a plus plus first baseman. They're probably going to take the first baseman that can rake more times than not. But if you have two first basemen that can rake and you got some shortstop footwork going on, that's always going to help you. So yeah, those shortstops are probably not all going to remain shortstops.
Yeah.
Um, because I think most of the guys in the big leagues were, shortstop center fielders on their little league teams, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just because they were the best player
Right.
at the time. So, but yeah, and that is a credit to, I think, the very first question of like, how do you go D1? You got to have the tools. You do have to have the tools. You do have to train towards that direction, that you have the tools that a shortstop player can do, the speed, the footwork, the arm strength, the power, all that. So
I like that. That's good because I'm looking at the draft and it was a 17th pick. You're right. His name was Ethan. Conrad from Wake Forest. He was an
Yep.
outfielder. He was the first one outside of a pitcher and shortstop, and then the next one after that was shortstop, and then the outfielder. It's just interesting how I looked at the draft. It was different this year compared to last year. All of these shortstops, and I said that because, when you're coaching high school ball, travel ball, any level of baseball, especially at the youth age, the youth amateur age, they always think they're a shortstop. And I was like, have you, I'm talking man to man. I'm like, I wanted to say, do you look at your footwork? Have you looked at your feet? Your feet are so heavy. You run like a kangaroo. You got to be light footed. You don't know how to round the ball. I mean, I'm just saying that because I know there's a kid that I coach, and I was like, you need to be open for other positions. I'm just sharing this with you. I'm just gonna tell you, he can hit from both sides, and he hits very good, very good. He's not a power hitter. He runs probably about a six. I'll say about 6'7", but he's about six
Yeah.
six. He's about 6'6", 6'7",
Okay.
and he can throw. So I was like, you better make sure you're getting ready to play outfield. Oh, coach, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, listen, let me just. I'm not trying to bust your bubble, but you better be open to play outfield because like you know this because if some coaches tell him what he wants to hear. Oh, you're a great shortstop. I'm like, yeah, you
They want him on the team, right? So sure. Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, but
Good
I'm
player.
I'm telling you the truth. I said, listen, I'm gonna tell you honestly. If a ball is hit hard to your right, can you get over to there real quick? And I've seen you can't get there. Your feet are too heavy. You can't get your reaction. Even if you play back, you can't get it. And it's not because you can't. It's because your body is not used to that type of twitch. And he has a hose, Cam. He probably throws about. This was last year. He's a junior. He probably throws about 87, 89 miles per hour across from shortstop. And he's still developing. I'm like, dude, you're an outfielder. But
Yeah.
anyway, I
Yeah.
just I just had to throw that out there because I was thinking about I keep thinking about this kid and I was like, man, he can play, but
You've probably got a personal experience similar to this, but this is what I use as my analogy for stuff like that and defining soft experiences versus hard experiences. So the soft experience is us as baseball guys seeing something and saying, "Hey, I know the answer to your question, problem, solution, whatever, and I can give it to you, but you haven't lived it, right?" And when you live it,
right,
that's when it becomes the hard experience. I'll never forget sitting on the kitchen counter, my dad's making spaghetti, okay? You know, turns the burner off, walks the spaghetti over to the pot and dumps it out, and I'm staring at the little spindle thing,
mm-hmm.
the burner, go from orange to black, and I go, Dad, it's cold now, and he goes, No, it's not, and I go, Yeah, it is. Look,
Right.
right. So my dad
Oh,
telling me it was not cold was the soft experience. That's he knows the answer,
it's not.
but I had to put my hand on there to learn
Ooh,
that hey, just because it turned black doesn't mean it's cold now, right? And so I had a spiral blister on my hand for about a week. But that's the hard experience, right? So I think about that too with development with our players. When they get kind of hard headed like that too, or whatever it is. Um, sometimes that's the only way that they're going to
right,
progress forward. The
right,
tough part is knowing that if they can't take some of that soft experience from coaches, talk about being coachable earlier, their growth is going to be slower because it's not easy to play for 10 years and keep learning stuff and keep getting jerseys and keep getting
right.
opportunities and stuff like that if you're not at least improving a little bit. And so if you're only learning from hard experiences, you're just going to be behind because you got to take the wisdom and the knowledge from people that have been around the
Yeah,
game a long time like yourself and other people that you meet and and just take it for what it is
yeah.
and move forward with it.
Yeah, I like that. I got a couple more questions before we end out. I want to ask you about the five tool thing because some guys don't know what five tools are. I know what five tools are, but can you break down what the five tools are? And do you think someone that can go D1 that doesn't have the five tools?
Yeah, if in first, I think you can because I mean, I feel like I kept getting opportunities for my legs. Being able to run a 6'4" allowed me a lot of opportunities as long as I could put the ball in play and deliver. Go run down balls in the outfield. I was pretty valuable to a team. Um, so when we talk through the five tools with youth players, I explain it as how well can you square up the baseball, which is hit for contact. When you do score up the baseball, how far does it go? How hard do you throw the ball from your positions? How well do you play defense? And how fast are you? Um, and so then looking at getting those players to kind of define what's my best tool, what's my weakest tool, and what are the training modules that are going to help.
Hmm.
I always want to support what I'm best at, because that's what's going to make a coach say, "Oh, I don't have a 6'4" runner, or I don't have a guy in my lineup that can, drive the ball off the wall with some consistency, or I don't have a plus plus number one,
Right.
fastball pitcher, whatever it is."
Right.
So
Right.
we always want to focus on that, and then we always want to focus on our weakest link to make us a
Hmm.
more solid player. But so if if we're slow and we're not very good on defense, right? General athletic prep stuff is going to be super valuable, and the little things that make you more athletic are going to be helpful, and then that's going to play into your other good tools.
I like that. I've got two more questions before we close out. One of the questions is, how important is character? How important is character? And the reason I say that is because there's some guys that got just talent. They just got talent, and they're hot headed. Cam, they just straight hot headed. They know everything, and they've been and I can't really fault them too much because they've played at that certain level, and nobody's been as good as them. But then all of a sudden, they get to that last day, and now they're getting ready to hit that freshman year, and the character is lacking. Can you give them a couple tips about why character is so important at any level, not just D1, but at any level, to get to that next level?
Yeah, and kind of going back to that first baseman conversation on, you got two guys that can rake and one guy's just a little bit better with the glove. You got two guys that are pretty good baseball players, but one guy we just don't like that much. He's a punk. He does little things wrong, whatever it is. Then you don't want that to be the reason that someone crosses you off the list at the end of the
Mm,
day. Character's something that is influenced in on you, whether you like it or not, with your family, with the people you hang out with, stuff like that. And, I know we have this conversation enough that I know how to work through it with a lot of our players, because especially like the high school guys, right? They come in, when you play on a select baseball team, you kind of have an idea of who you're playing with, and you can say, I want to play with this team or I don't want to play with that team. With your high school group, you can't change who moves into the zip code. You get what you get. I don't know how the recruiting works out there where you're at, but there's a little small things coaches
yeah,
can do, but
right,
you're really not going to influence the roster year over year.
right.
And guys get frustrated because they're like, man, this guy just doesn't work hard, and this and that, and I'm tired of guys not caring. And it's like,
Mm,
I guarantee you there's one guy on your team that cares as much as you do, and that just needs to be your buddy. And you don't have to take all seven infielders to the cages with you. Just take the guy that wants to bust his butt and work hard like you, and he's going to push you and you're going to push him, and that's really all it takes.
mm,
Because for the rest of your life, right? Going back to the human development piece, whether you're playing baseball in an office, things like that, there are going to be lazy people. You're going to have lazy people on your team. There's lazy people in the big leagues.
That's
We
right.
see it, right?
Believe it. Believe it.
It's going on right now, but they're just that dang good. We can't not put them on the field. But that's
Wow.
not a guy that I want to hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, if you stop playing baseball and you have a desk job, or you have a job doing something else, if you allow the bottom half percentage of people's work ethic to become your work ethic, that's on you, and that's your
Mm,
fault, and that's a character thing big time. So my belief on that character piece is, look around your room, who's in your inner circle,
that's right.
because those people over time will influence you. It might not be right away, but if
Sooner
you
or
can
later.
point at guys and say, hey, I like how this guy goes about his business, I like that guy how he goes about his business, so what's that now needs to be the people I need to hang out with.
I like that. This I've got one last question, Cam, and I'm gonna let you use a closing remark. But I got one last question. This is for you because we're talking about the first question we start off with was what does it take to get noticed by a D1 school to get an offer. So now this is the last question I'm gonna ask you. So let's just break this down. Hmm. You got a kid that is at a school that does not have talent. I mean, the school just, it's not a baseball school. Let me rephrase that. It's not a baseball school. Got a kid that has talent, and he may have to be a walk on. My question to you is, how can you prepare him, and what level of baseball should he go to? Because his friends go to D1, and he don't want to go to a JUCO. So how can you give him a couple tips to make the right choices? Because a lot of kids are going to schools they shouldn't be going to, and they don't do no research. They do zero research. They just say, I'm going to that school because I like the shirt. I like the way that shirt look, coach, so I'm going there. And that's been my dream school. So can you break it down for a kid that doesn't have the options, and does he need to go to D1? Can he go to different, show him what how to make those steps to make the right decision to go to college?
Yes, just want to make sure I understand. So you're saying like a player who is going to a school that they're maybe too good for?
Or not
And
not as good. They may not be good enough. They're
okay.
trying to go to a school. So my question is, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. A kid does not have any offers. He has the talent. He does have talent.
Mhm.
The problem is he's trying to go D1, and he hasn't considered D2, D3, or
Gotcha.
JUCO. So
Okay.
how do we? Can you give him like three tips how to make that decision, what to do to make the right choice?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a hard experience, one, right? And th as coaches, what I try to help facilitate happening in that situation, D1 coaches are hard to get a hold of, first of all. Um, so, reaching out to the hitting coaches, pitching coaches, whatever, they have to hear from them directly. Talk about like how we market our players and have them, say, hey, here's my tools, this is my metrics, here's my video. Does this line up with the kind of players you recruit? And so if they're able to have that direct conversation with one of the D1 coaches somewhere, and they're able to say, hey, man, like you throw 82. And so, it's great that you throw strikes and it's great that you get outs and it's great that you do those things. We don't look at anybody that throws under 88. We just don't. So then now, okay, well, you're not going to add 8 miles an hour of velo in 3 months.
Correct.
So maybe we need to look at a non D1 school that's known for its pitching program, that has a good pitching coach, that has a good development program that's going to get us to 90 so that maybe I can go D1 after a year or two. That's always been successful for us, is making sure the kid hears it directly from I would say, the bracket of coaches in terms of D1, D2, NAIA, whatever, that, you know, you might be the great hardworking kid, but we need stuff. We need tools. We need, execution levels of, you know, ground balls, fly balls, whatever. Um, and so being able to define those things that your metrics just aren't, you're just not in this pool yet.
Right.
And
Right.
so until you get there, it's, the conversation's over.
Yeah.
And that's hard for them to hear,
Right.
but you know,
They need to hear it.
they need to hear it from the actual D1 coach, not from the coach telling them you probably shouldn't go D1 yet.
Yeah, yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow. I just thought I'd throw that in there because I was thinking about my questions, but I had to rearrange it because I was trying to take two questions and combine them together because of the sake of time. I want to say thank you for coming on, man. It's been nothing but a blast. I got tons of notes. I feel like I'm in school, and it just helps. It's helpful because a lot of stuff you're talking about is in my book. It's interesting. You're talking about a lot of developmental stuff. You talked about character, which I love talking about character. You talk about development. You talk about the five tools. You talk about that. But I want to say thank you for coming on, man. And I want you to go out and send out a shout to all the people that are listening for your services and how can they contact you. And go ahead and do that if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. We're pretty easy to follow. I'm Cameron Monger on everything. At Cameron Monger on Instagram. It's probably where I'm on the most, because our business cover all bases in Arlington, Texas.
Okay.
That's we use our Instagram the most for our stuff. We do remote training, so if you're listening to
Okay.
this, you do qualify to get some
Okay.
help from us. We use some pretty cool apps. Um, to help kids with arm care and to help kids with their swing, but more importantly, help them with their understanding of themselves and what they need to work on and how to own their development process. Because at the end of the day, I know there's a lot of great coaches that have shaped me, but you got to be your best coach, and you got to be
Yeah.
always thinking about how to get better and what do I got to do today. And for your younger kids, sometimes it's eat a lot of food and sleep enough. sometimes that's going to be a challenge for you guys is putting the
Yeah,
phone down and getting off the
yeah,
sticks
that's
and
right.
doing the little things to be great. But sometimes it's going in and hitting till your hands get tired. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's easy to get a hold of me. Easy to get a hold of us at Cover All Bases if you want to train with us.
can't wait.
It's those first sessions honestly are my favorite because it's a clean slate. You get an opportunity to meet a kid and like I said, I want to talk to and instruct and coach a player as if he's going to quit tomorrow. So,
Right.
I love getting to know new kids, new people, new families, help them solve the questions and the problems that my family couldn't figure out either when we're navigating going to college and pro
Yeah,
ball and how do I do this stuff and
that's right.
all that. So, yeah, it would be cool to connect with someone through this podcast
I like that,
and
man.
then circle
Thanks,
back
man.
with you on it.
I thank you, man. I appreciate you coming in, coming out, and making it available. We've been trying to catch each other for a while, but we finally caught it. Thank God. Thank God. We finally got it. Also, he's his Instagram is youth development coach. What does it say? Does it say youth development
Well, I think
cam
it
on there?
just is like my name. Yeah, youth development
It
coach
says
is
youth
what I would
development
say.
coach.
Yep.
So I want to for the people that are listening, episode 99, and make sure you understand when you reach out to him, be consistent. He's available. He will respond to you. I'm just letting you know. You just have to be consistent because a lot of kids don't respond. If you don't, oh, I DM'd 2 weeks ago. He didn't respond. No, keep responding. He will respond. If you're in the Arlington, Texas area, Dallas area, if you want some training, you need to give him a shout. Go out and check him out. Hey, you're gonna get a treat. I'm giving out him. And also, if you want to be great, if you
That's
want
right.
to be
It's
great,
optional. You don't have to text me. You don't have to text me if you don't
if
want to.
you want to be great, it has been a blast, man. I want to say thank you, but I'm gonna close it out, man. Thanks, Cameron. Cameron, I appreciate it. You've been nothing but a pleasure to talk to. You give a wealth of information. Episode 99, the very own 2009 draft pick for the San Diego Padres. I keep saying that because I want to make people know that you're qualified. Bottom line, people want to say, well, he's not. He's qualified. So anyway, the question I want to ask everyone as I close out today is, what direction are you going in? For all the listeners are listening, Cam gave some great information. I had some good questions for him. My question is, where are you being led? If you're driving down the highway, you can go north, south, east, or west. The question is, where are you going? What direction are you going in? So it gets the first letter is L. Where are you being led? L stands for listen. Listen to everything we talked about today. A lot of times people are doing a lot of talking, not enough listening. This is just my experience. I mean, I had a good mentor that told me this camera. He said, "You talk too much." And this when I was younger. I was like, "Oh." I said, "Okay." So now I'm closing out with this one. Listen. And God gave us two ears, so to use your ears. And there's an old saying called "Faith comes by hearing," and hearing the word of God. You got to hear it first to execute it. And E stands for execute. Execute what Coach Cam has talked about. LE. That means execute. Listen, execute, and the last letter is D. Led, dominate. So Coach Cam is giving you some great information how to get to the next level. Even if it's not D1, it's D2, NAI, wherever it may be. Hey, you got to go somewhere. And if you're going to go to college, go where you can play. Go where you can play, Cam. Coach Cam agrees with me. Go where you can play. Don't go and follow your friend. This is Coach Laurie, and we're signing out. Hope you enjoyed it. Episode 99. Coach Cam, it has been a blast, man. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it, man. God bless. Don't stress. Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
You're welcome, man. Thanks, brother.